The Raymans squealed as Robert gunned them down, spraying red mists across the forest, leaving only one thought in their minds as they died. This was all for killing a human's dog. 10 minutes earlier, Robert Wilson had been walking through the remote woods of the colony planet with his loyal German shepherd Max at his side. The grizzled ex-Special Forces soldier enjoyed the solitude after a lifetime of combat. He was content to leave the fighting behind and live a quiet, peaceful life. That is, until he and Max stumbled upon a group of Riemann poachers, led by a burly alien named Draco, slaughtering endangered animals for their pelts. "Hey, leave those creatures alone!" Robert yelled as he approached the startled hunters. Draco hissed at the unwelcome interruption. He barked orders at his men in a guttural tongue. "Shoot the human and his beast!" The Riemanns opened fire. Robert dove for cover behind a tree, but Max charged forward, leaping at the nearest poacher. The alien screamed as the dog's teeth tore into its throat, but another Riemann shot Max, once, twice, 3 times. The dog yelped and fell. Robert returned fire, killing the aliens with precise headshots as he ran to his dying companion. The remaining poachers fled to their ship and blasted off. As Robert held Max, watching the light fade from his eyes, a cold rage filled him. He carried the dog back to his cabin and buried him. At the grave, he made a vow. "I'll kill every last one of them, Max, for you." He retrieved his old powered combat armor from storage. It was time to remind the galaxy what a human super soldier was capable of. Draco would soon learn that no one kills a human's dog and gets away with it. And if Robert's actions sparked a war between mankind and the Riemanns, so be it. Robert's thirst for vengeance led him to a grimy spaceport at the edge of civilized space. He slipped into a dimly lit bar, blending with the assortment of alien lowlifes. After greasing a few palms, a drunken Riemann spilled that Draco's gang was just small fry, part of a sprawling criminal network. Robert tapped his old military contacts, acquiring black market weapons as a cover. He infiltrated the syndicate as an arms dealer named Zach Reese. As he climbed the ranks, he uncovered the Riemann's enterprises. Poaching, smuggling guns and tech, all funding something big. "Are you proving yourself useful, Reese?" a scar-faced Raymond said, as Robert delivered a cache of plasma rifles. "Draco was impressed by your latest haul." Robert plastered on a grin. "Glad to be of service." In truth, Robert had been sabotaging their operations, leaking intel to authorities. Shipments vanished, storehouses exploded. But his latest raid on their servers revealed the conspiracy ran deeper than he imagined. "We got a problem," Draco growled, storming into the room. He flung down a holo device showing security footage of Robert hacking their systems. "Zach Reese? More like Robert Wilson, the human who killed my men." Robert whipped out his sidearm. Draco fired, the shot grazing Robert's helmet as he dove behind cover. More Riemanns flooded in, energy bolts flying. "Damn it!" Robert grunted as a bolt struck his armor. He tossed a grenade, the blast giving him an opening. He sprinted for the door, aliens hot on his heels. He barely made it to his ship. As he blasted out of the spaceport, his comm pinged with an all-points bulletin. The Riemanns had slapped a massive bounty on him. Every merc and scumbag in the sector would be gunning for him now. But as Robert jumped to FTL, data he'd swiped from the servers flashed on his screen, hinting at something called Project Terminus. If his hunch was right, Max's death had led him to a plot that endangered every human in the region. With a massive bounty on his head and the colony in peril, Robert knew he couldn't take on the Riemanns alone. He needed backup, and he knew just the man for the job. Jack Hawkins, an ex-Marine turned mercenary, was the toughest son of a bitch Robert had ever served with. If anyone could help him unravel this conspiracy, it was Jack. Robert tracked Jack down to a seedy bar on a backwater planet. The grizzled merc was skeptical at first, but when Robert showed him the data he'd stolen, Jack's eyes widened. "Shit, Robbie, this is big. The Riemanns are really planning to invade the colony with this kind of firepower?" Robert nodded grimly. "And it looks like they've got help from the inside. We need to warn the authorities before it's too late. But when they brought their evidence to the colonial officials, they were met with dismissal and thinly veiled threats. It soon became clear that key members of the government were in the Raymonds' pocket. Undeterred, Robert and Jack hatched a plan to infiltrate a Riemann staging ground and steal more concrete proof of the impending attack. They managed to get their hands on detailed invasion plans, but as they were making their escape, Jack was captured by Draco and his goons. Robert barely made it out alive. Now he was a wanted man by both the Raymonds and the corrupt colonial authorities, but he knew he couldn't leave Jack in the Raymonds' clutches, and with time running out before the invasion, he had to find a way to expose the truth and mount a defense. Desperate, Robert reached out to a group of colonists who had long been suspicious of the Raymonds, a ragtag band of rebels who had been preparing for the worst. Among them was Sarah, a fiery-haired explosives expert, and Mac, a gruff ex-miner with a knack for tactics. "We always knew those scaly bastards were up to something," Mac growled as Robert laid out the situation. "But an all-out invasion? Shit, we're gonna need a bigger gun." Sarah grinned, holding up a detonator. "Lucky for us, I know where we can get some. It's time to show the Riemanns what happens when you mess with humans." As the rebels began to organize, stockpiling weapons and laying traps, Robert knew that this fight would be the toughest of his life. But with Jack's life on the line and the fate of the colony hanging in the balance, he was ready to do whatever it took to stop the Raymonds and avenge his fallen dog. Robert's boots thudded against the deck of the Riemann ship as alarms blared. Red lights flashed. He ducked into an alcove, plasma bolts sizzling past. Another dead end, another Riemann outpost, abandoned. Months of tracking down Draco's remnants across the galaxy had led to this. Dead ends and cold trails. But with each raid, he'd found clues hinting at something darker. Whispers of a puppeteer pulling Riemann strings, of human betrayal. The ship's computer blinked, data download complete. Robert plugged the drive into his gauntlet, firing his jetpack. He blasted out the airlock as the frigate exploded behind him. Back on his ship, Robert pored over the stolen files, a chill running down his spine. Shipping manifests, transfer logs, coded transmissions. The Raymonds were well supplied, too well supplied. Military-grade weapons, cutting-edge tech, and all of it came from human corporations. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. The Raymonds had been pawns all along, disposable foot soldiers in a war orchestrated by Robert's own kind. Powerful cabals had armed the aliens, engineering the conflict, all to line their pockets as humanity bled. Rage and nausea churned in Robert's gut. He'd lost friends, his dog, his home, all for the greed of a few, but who? What monsters would betray their own species? He needed answers, and there was one place he might find them. The Raymond defector camp was well hidden, but Robert had his ways. He approached openly, hands raised as snipers tracked his every move. At the gate, a hooded figure emerged. "Robert Wilson," she said, voice distorted by her mask. "I know why you're here." "You've got a funny way of greeting guests," Robert replied, eyeing the gun barrels aimed his way. The figure laughed mirthlessly. "My name is Zara, and if you want the truth, you'll hear my terms." Inside the compound, Zara laid it out. She'd been Draco's lieutenant, privy to his secrets, until she discovered the same bitter truth, that her people had been sacrificed for human greed. "I want justice," Zara hissed, "and vengeance. You help me get it, I'll give you what you need." Robert met her gaze, seeing his own pain reflected back. The enemy of my enemy. He nodded once. "Where do we start?" Weeks turned to months as Robert and Zara worked tirelessly, piecing together the conspiracy. Fake identities, data heists, midnight raids. No lead was too small, no risk too great. Slowly, they built an ironclad case. The cabal's tendrils ran deep. Corrupt politicians, ruthless CEOs, rogue generals, but all roads led to one man, Elias Vanderbilt, trillionaire industrialist, war profiteer. The untouchable king of New Avalon's corporate elite. We need to get inside Vanderbilt's systems, Zara said, poring over stolen blueprints of the Mogul's fortified skyscraper. His central servers contain everything: records, video logs, transaction histories, enough to bring the entire cabal down. Robert frowned. Place is a goddamn fortress, blast-proof, ray-shielded. Armed to the teeth, it'd be suicide. Zara's eyes flashed beneath her hood. More so to do nothing. You've seen what they're capable of, the lives they've destroyed, your life. Robert's jaw clenched as he remembered Max. Jack, Sarah, Mac. So many lost. Because of men like Vanderbilt. His fingers tightened on his rifle. "All right," he growled, "let's finish this." On New Avalon, Vanderbilt Tower rose like a blade over the smog-choked city. Aerial drones buzzed around its upper levels, rocket launchers primed. Squadrons of armored vehicles ringed the perimeter, weapons hot. Robert and Zara went in hard and fast. Breaching charges blew the loading dock gates as they jetted through, guns blazing. Autocannons roared to life, churning the air with tungsten hail. Robert dove left, Zara right. They leapfrogged between shipping containers as the dock disintegrated behind them. A drone swooped in, strafing. Robert triggered an ion grenade, the blast wave shorting its circuits. It spiraled into a pile of crates. "Push forward," Zara barked over the din. "We need to reach the express elevator." They battled through legions of Vanderbilt's troops, heavily muscled cyborgs, gene-boosted monstrosities. Bullets pinged off Robert's armor as he drilled a merc straight through his artificial eye. Zara was a whirlwind, vibroblades severing limbs as her plasma caster sowed blazing destruction. Finally, they reached the elevator. Robert muscled the doors open as Zara laid down covering fire. Klaxons echoed in the shaft as they rocketed upward. The lift spat them out in a maelstrom of violence. The admin level was already a war zone, panicked suits fleeing as security forces surged to meet the intruders. Robert unslung his beamer, energy pulses felling a phalanx of onrushing cyber soldiers. Zara grabbed a terrified executive, slamming him against the wall. "Vanderbilt, where is he?" "Per penthouse level," the man stammered. "It's fortified. You'll never—" Zara knocked him cold, tossing him aside. She and Robert cut a bloody path to Vanderbilt's private elevator, riding it to the top. The doors opened to a cavernous, opulent chamber. Towering windows looked out over the glittering cityscape below, and there, in the center, stood Elias Vanderbilt himself. The mogul sat calmly behind an ornate desk, sipping scotch. He was slender, grey at the temples, draped in a finely tailored suit. He smiled thinly as Robert and Zara approached, weapons trained on him. "Ah, the famous Robert Wilson," Vanderbilt said, swirling his drink. "And the traitor, Zara. I must say I'm impressed you made it this far." "It's over, Vanderbilt," Robert snarled, his rifle never wavering. "We have all the evidence, every dirty secret, every crime. You and your cabal won't escape justice." Vanderbilt tutted, uncowed. "Justice, a quaint notion." He steepled his fingers. "What do you hope to achieve, really? So you expose us, perhaps even see some of us jailed. It won't change the fundamental truth." The mogul leaned forward, eyes glinting. "War is the engine that drives the gears of history. Conflict is inevitable, and there will always be those like me who understand that immutable fact, who have the vision to profit from it." "Profit," Zara spat. "You sacrificed millions for your bottom line. You played my people like disposable pawns." "Pawns?" Vanderbilt scoffed. "The Remans were destined to fall, whether by human hands or their own. I merely accelerated the process, and I'd do it again." The trillionaire stood, adjusting his cuffs. "But I'm not without mercy. I'm prepared to offer you both a deal, a single offer." Vanderbilt spread his hands expansively. "Join me. Take your rightful place at my side. As generals in the glorious battles to come, you'll have wealth, power, everything you've ever dreamed of, and all you have to do is recognize the truth of what I've said." Robert felt his finger tighten on the trigger. He dreamed of this moment, yearned to put a bolt right between the bastard's eyes. But Vanderbilt's words echoed in his mind, insidious. The man was right. Would killing him really change anything in the end? The war, the destruction, the cycle of greed, it would all continue, with or without Elias Vanderbilt. Zara met Robert's conflicted gaze, her own eyes haunted. The same realization played across her alien features. The scope of the rot, the unwinnable nature of this fight. Robert wavered, lowered his rifle a fraction. Vanderbilt's smile widened. Zara moved. A single shot right through the mogul's heart. Vanderbilt looked down at the smoking hole in his chest, surprise etched on his patrician features. He crumpled to the floor. "No," Zara said quietly. "I won't let you poison me, poison us. This is our choice, not yours." She turned to Robert, eyes blazing with newfound resolve. "He was right about one thing. The battle never ends, but neither does our duty to fight it. We'll break this cycle, one link at a time if we have to, starting now." Zara strode to Vanderbilt's desk, hands flying over the controls. The central server banks thrummed to life behind them, holographic screens flaring. She looked up at Robert. "Cover me. I'm going to transmit everything, leverage the entire net. By the time I'm done, the Cabal won't have a single shadow left to hide in." Robert nodded, moving to guard the elevator. Precious minutes ticked by as Zara worked feverishly. The sounds of gunfire, of shouting, drew closer. "Almost there," Zara called out. "Just need to—" The world exploded. A wall of force slammed into Robert, sending him flying. His vision swam, ears ringing. He shook his head, fighting unconsciousness. The office was a smoking ruin. An orbital strike, a last resort failsafe triggered by Vanderbilt's dead man's switch. Robert stumbled to his feet, coughing on the acrid air. "Zara," he shouted hoarsely. "Zara, where are you?" He found her slumped against the shattered remains of the servers. Crystalline shards peppered her torso, oozing viscous yellow blood. Her breathing was labored, each exhale a wet rattle. Robert cradled her broken form, his armor slick with her blood. Zara's eyes found his, hazy with pain. "The upload?" Robert asked urgently. "Did it go through?" Zara nodded weakly. "It's done. They'll all pay for everything." She reached up, cupping Robert's cheek with a trembling hand. Don't let it be for nothing. Promise me." Robert clasped her hand fiercely. "I promise I'll keep fighting, always." Zara smiled then. A true smile, free of cynicism or bitterness. At peace. Her eyes drifted shut. Her hand went limp in Robert's grasp. Robert held her as the evac shuttles descended, as the medics tried in vain to staunch her wounds. He held her as the first reports came in, arrests of Cabal ringleaders, mobs storming corporate headquarters, governments vowing investigations and justice. He held her and he wept. For Zara, for Jack, Mac, Sarah, for Max. For the dream of a galaxy freed from the cycles of greed and violence. And as the sun rose over the smouldering ruins of Vanderbilt Tower, as a new chapter opened in the story of the colony and all humanity, Robert made a silent vow. To never stop fighting for that dream, no matter the cost. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.